Welcome to Full Moon Film Buff, episode 55. We are talking about An American Werewolf in London from 1981. This is it. This is the week we begin to leave the classical werewolf movie behind us and move into what I consider the golden age of werewolf cinema. I rented this from Voodoo. I have seen this multiple times before, but it has been a while since the last time. We do still have some pre-1980s films to get to over the next few weeks, but I just could not wait any longer. So let's start with the prominent crew and cast, and this is a doozy. It was written and directed by John Landis, with effects makeup designed and created by Rick Baker. Now, John Landis is an American film director, producer, screenwriter, and actor, known primarily for his comedy and horror films. As a high school dropout, he got his start in the mailroom and as a production assistant, the lowest jobs you can have at a film studio. He worked his way up the ladder and gained widespread recognition and success with the iconic comedies Animal House in 1978 and The Blues Brothers in 1980 before he tackled An American Werewolf in London. He considers An American Werewolf in London to be his greatest film, and I agree with him. Landis wrote but did not direct the sequel, An American Werewolf in Paris from 1997. We'll get to that movie later. He continued making great comedies over the years, but he also directed quite a few music videos, including the amazing Thriller video for Michael Jackson. In 1983, based entirely on Jackson's appreciation for An American Werewolf in London. Despite these successes, Landis faced a significant setback in 1983 with a tragic accident on the set of Twilight Zone, the movie, that resulted in the untimely deaths of actor Vic Morrow and two child actors. Landis and others faced legal repercussions over this, casting a shadow over his career. One last John Landis fact related to werewolves. He was producing a still in development remake of An American Werewolf in London that would have been directed by his son Max Landis, if it ever gets made. We'll keep an eye on it. Now, one thing I love is that this is the first film I have seen for this project whose IMDb page lists a whole special effects makeup crew. It took a team of at least 12 artists to pull these effects off. Rick Baker was the leader of this team. He is an American special makeup effects creator, creature designer, and actor renowned for groundbreaking contributions to the field of practical effects in the film industry. He holds the record for the most nominations, 11, and wins 7 in the special makeup effects category. Baker's fascination with monster makeup began at a young age, and he started experimenting with creating masks and prosthetics. His career took off in the early 70s as a collaborator with filmmaker John Landis. He worked on Star Wars: A New Hope on the special effects makeup second unit. Baker also worked on the first werewolf television series I could find, Werewolf, 1987 to 88. The longer I work on this project, the more convinced I am that I will eventually cover TV shows. Anyway, we will revisit Rick Baker and his work on werewolf cinema again. His unparalleled expertise in the field made him a much sought-after collaborator for directors, and he solidified his reputation as a master in the arts of practical effects. Rick Baker remained committed to the craft of practical effects, and his legacy endures as one of the preeminent figures in the special effects makeup industry. He officially retired in 2015, leaving an unforgettable mark on the world of cinema, influencing subsequent generations of makeup artists and propelling the field to new heights of creativity and realism. On to the cast. David Naughton portrays David Kessler. Griffin Dunne played Jack Goodman. Patty Ryan is the first werewolf. Jenny Agutter is Nurse Alex Price. John Woodvine played Dr. J.S. Hirsch, and Frank Oz played Mr. Collins and Miss Piggy. David Naughton first became widely known as a result of a 4-year stint singing and dancing in television commercials and personal appearances promoting Dr. Pepper from 1977 to 1981. As a devoted Dr. Pepper drinker as well as werewolf fan, this makes me like him even more. He hit the Billboard Top 10 in 1979 with the sitcom's theme song titled Making It. He is still working today and is approaching his 100th acting credit. Griffin Dunne has even more acting credits, having cleared the 100 mark. He's also moved into film production and directing, and is still active in the industry. As a consequence of an early family tragedy, he's involved with charities, providing support for families of the victims of violent crime. Jenny Agutter has both her male co-stars beat with over 120 acting credits. It helps that she got her start as a child actor at the age of 12. She came to global stardom in Logan's Run in 1976. She's had the quintessential British acting career, doing both Shakespeare multiple times, as well as Doctor Who and Red Dwarf. She continues to work, doing 15 seasons on Call the Midwife. She's also appeared in the MCU in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. She's also been very heavily involved in charity work for the Diabetic Association and NCH Action for Children, a charity assisting homeless children. A vast majority of John Woodvine's acting work has been on British television. That said, he has a decent number of film roles as well. He's been acting for over 6 decades. Frank Oz was born in England but raised in America. He is a multifaceted artist, renowned for contributions to puppetry, filmmaking, and voice acting. His journey into the world of entertainment began as a puppeteer, first at a California amusement park, and then with Jim Henson's Muppets, where he brought iconic characters to life, including Miss Piggy, Fozzie Bear, and the Jedi Master Yoda from the Star Wars saga. Oz's skill in puppetry earned him widespread recognition, and he became an integral part of Henson's creative team. Beyond puppetry, Oz transitioned into directing. My personal favorites of his are Little Shop of Horrors from 1986 and What About Bob from 1991. He was a frequent collaborator with John Landis, as well as the great comedian Steve Martin. I cannot think of a Steve Martin werewolf movie, which is a shame. I wish there was one. In addition to his puppetry and film work, Oz's vocal talents extended to beloved characters in animated features and games. Oz's enduring impact on the entertainment industry reflects his unparalleled creativity and versatility across multiple different mediums. Do I recommend this movie? Naturally, I wholeheartedly recommend this film. Not one of you would ever take me seriously again if I did not. As I said, it's been a couple decades since I watched it last, so I admit I was a touch nervous about how well it would hold up 42 plus years after it was released. I am delighted to share with you that it stands the test of time remarkably well. We'll go into all the reasons why after the synopsis. Just know that there are fantastic reasons why this shows up regularly on best werewolf movies of all time lists. My favorite tidbit regarding this film is about its writing. John Landis wrote the screenplay after an incident occurring in Yugoslavia in 1969 while shooting the movie Kelly's Heroes. Landis encountered a gypsy funeral while driving along a country road. The body was not being laid to rest in the traditional sleeping position. Instead, it was being lowered into an exceptionally deep grave, standing up, feet first, and wrapped in garlic to prevent the corpse from rising from the dead. At the time, producers were uncertain about the script's genre, deeming it too funny for a horror movie and too frightening for a comedy. It's probably for the best that it took a decade to get made, since special effects makeup needed that time to develop to the point where it could be made this well. So, let's cover the synopsis. 2 American graduate students from New York City, David Kessler and Jack Goodman, trek across the moors of Yorkshire, northern England. As night falls, they stop at the Slaughtered Lamb, a local pub. The locals are not hospitable. Jack asks why the bar has a pentacle on the wall. The bar goes instantly silent, and the locals get even more hostile, prompting David and Jack to leave. Before they leave, the locals warn the young men to stay on the road, to not wander on the moors, and to beware the full moon. As Jack and David walk, it begins raining and the fog thickens. They drift off the road and find themselves disoriented on the moors. They hear the ominous howl of an animal in the distance, and Jack nervously suggests returning back to the village. They hear a low growling nearby and catch sight of a large animal circling them. They hustle away, only to find that the creature has gotten around in front of them. They break into a run. David trips and falls. They laugh over David's accident, and Jack helps him up. A huge wolf attacks Jack and savagely mutilates him. David initially panics and flees for his life, but returns when he registers that Jack is screaming. He finds Jack's body ripped apart. The wolf attacks him, biting and scratching him on his face and shoulder. Gunshots are heard. Villagers from the Slaughtered Lamb have appeared and shot the wolf. Before he falls unconscious, David sees the bloodied body of a naked man lying next to him, instead of an animal carcass. David wakes up 3 weeks later in a London hospital. His doctor tells him that Jack is dead. Police have informed his parents about his condition. Later, he's questioned by police inspectors. David doesn't have much to tell except that a large and powerful animal killed Jack. The policeman tells David that the patrons of the Slaughtered Lamb reported Jack was killed by a recently escaped murderer. David begins to experience strange nightmares. In one, he runs nude through the forest and comes to a bed. He sees himself lying in the bed. When the bedridden David opens his eyes, they appear animal-like, and he snarls. In another dream, Nazi ghouls shoot up and kill David's entire family. A few days later, the mutilated ghost of Jack appears to David. Jack warns David that they were attacked by a lycanthrope, a werewolf. Jack is cursed to walk the earth in limbo, neither dead nor alive until the wolf's bloodline is severed. Worse, David is doomed to transform into a werewolf himself at the next full moon, a few days from then. Jack tells David he must kill himself to break the werewolf's bloodline, or he will attack others and continue this cycle. Jack is incredulous, thinking that his trauma from the experience is affecting his mind. Jack assures him that the curse is very real. One of David's nurses, Alex Price, becomes very attracted to David and invites him to stay at her London flat after he's released. The two become lovers. One night, while Alex sleeps, David wakes up to use the bathroom. He is startled by Jack's reappearance. Jack's spirit form continues to decay. David cannot believe Jack's warning, even when Jack tells him he may harm Alex. Jack warns him that the full moon is tomorrow. Jack disappears, and David still believes he's losing his mind. When Alex heads off to work the next day, David is left alone in the apartment. That night, as the full moon rises, David suddenly screams in pain. He slowly, painfully, and graphically transforms into a wolf. He first stalks and kills a couple on their way to a party near Alex's apartment. On the banks of the River Thames, David attacks 3 homeless men and kills them. Finally, he kills a man on the London Underground. The man hears David's growling and begins to walk quickly away, eventually running as David chases him. He makes it to an escalator and slips. David pounces. David wakes up, thinking that he has suffered another nightmare, but finds instead that he is naked and in the wolf's pen at the zoo. He steals balloons from a boy and an overcoat from a woman, and rides back to Alex's flat on the tube. Meanwhile, David's doctor, J.S. Hirsch, travels to East Proctor to investigate his suspicions. Hirsch questions the townsfolk there, asking them why David's injuries were fully cleaned and dressed when they turned him over to the medical professionals. The townsfolk refuse to answer the doctor's questions. However, one of them meets the doctor outside the pub and tells him what really happened and that David is cursed. The doctor returns to London and asks Alex about her new relationship with David. He tells her to keep an eye on him and that she might be in danger. He suspects David might have been influenced mentally by the local superstitions. Alex and David go out for a day in London. A cabbie tells David about the mysterious murders around the city last night. David finally accepts that Jack is right and tries to get himself arrested in Trafalgar Square, shouting statements that he assumes are offensive to the English. Eventually, he runs off, leaving Alex behind. He calls home to tell his family he loves them and has to leave a message with his youngest sister. He tries to slit his wrists, but he can't bring himself to do it. David sees Jack yet again, even more decayed, outside of an adult movie theater at Piccadilly Square. Inside, Jack introduces David to his previous night's victims, some of whom are furious with David and suggest various potential suicide methods to free them from their undead state. David suddenly transforms into the wolf again and bursts out of the theater, attacking people on the street and causing several violent car crashes. He decapitates Inspector Villiers. He's cornered by the police in a dead-end alley. Hirsch and Alex find him there, and Alex tries to calm David down and help him transform back. With some recognition of Alex in his eyes, David leaps at her, feigning an attack. The police shoot him dead. Time to talk transformation. Here it is in all its glory. John Landis had talked with Rick Baker for years about this movie and Landis's vision for the werewolf. Landis did not want another Wolfman with a mostly bipedal look, which is what Baker had originally envisioned. Landis wanted a massive quadrupedal hellhound. We don't ever get a real good look at the full werewolf form. I can barely recall getting any look at the werewolf on the moors. And we only ever see the front half of David's werewolf form, for good reason. That werewolf was essentially the front half of the wolf attached to a wheelbarrow. The puppet operator would lay on a plank and control the head, the front legs, and the paws. But boy, howdy, do we get a good look at the transformation. This is not shot in a dark forest. This is a bright London flat. Rather than rush through the transformation, and like we've seen other filmmakers do recently, Landis takes his time. This transformation is over 3 minutes long. There is no cutaway to another character's reaction. We are trapped with David, and we feel the transformation. David trembles and screams in pain as his limbs stretch and rip in inhuman ways. His torso elongates, hair erupts all over his body, and his teeth grow sharp. His face elongates on screen. His screams eventually blend into guttural growls. Baker and his team of makers and artists put months of work into preparing for this iconic transformation scene. They built what they called change-o heads, hands, feet, legs, and even a torso to represent the various stages of David's painful transformation. The crew took a full week to shoot the sequence. The stretching effects were achieved with the material that dissolved over time after production wrapped. They worked backwards regarding the hair growth. To start, all the hair was applied to Naughton, and Baker would trim a little off to mark the progression. For other shots, the hair was pulled out of the prosthetic, and then the footage was run in reverse. Naughton's lower body was secured beneath a fake floor for part of the transformation. Fake legs were attached above. Blocking the transformation also proved useful to the shoot. Many shots were framed with only parts of the character exposed from behind pieces of furniture. Baker's team's brilliantly simple and innovative makeup effects design and creation go a long way, making this transformation so powerfully unforgettable. But Naughton deserves a lot of the credit too. The physicality of this scene, the terror in his eyes, and his anguished cries in unison with Baker's effects sell the horror and pain of the transformation. Now, how director John Landis shoots the scene, capturing the terrifying transition from multiple angles, wide and close up, along with creative, evocative sound design, all work to create a tapestry of terror. This was an insane amount of hard work and preparation, combined with talent and creative energy to create something truly unforgettable. And all this, and the great makeup on Jack's ever-decaying corpse. On to werewolf lore. First, this film was clearly inspired by Werewolf of London, given the title. Landis has also said he was inspired by Universal's Lon Chaney Jr.'s The Wolfman. For the most part, it sticks to the typical werewolf lore with one big redaction and one potential addition. Notably absent is the conventional weakness of Silver, as both David's assailant and David himself meet their demise through regular firearms. That said, this movie makes one noteworthy addition to werewolf mythology, primarily through the character of Jack Goodman. I'm talking about the restless dead who stalk the werewolf. This was an incredibly clever inclusion. The biggest thing this did was to get David and us as an audience up to speed efficiently. In a typical werewolf movie, the protagonist is unaware of what they have become. They may even turn into the werewolf 2 or 3 times before putting the truth of their situation together. But here, thanks to Jack, David knows exactly what's going on before his first change. He doesn't believe, he thinks he's crazy, but he knows. So one change is all it takes for David to accept the truth and begin acting to address the situation. This creates a much tighter plot. Additionally, a lycanthrope feeling guilt for the actions of their bestial alter ego isn't new, of course. We've seen Larry Talbot try and kill himself in House of Dracula, but since we cannot hear their inner thoughts to this point, conveying that sense of remorse has depended upon the acting skills of the performer. An American Werewolf in London externalizes those feelings in the personage of Jack, adding additional voices to the grim chorus with each victim. The victims of the werewolf are trapped on this plane, unable to move on. But the werewolf is also trapped with his victims, unable to further harm them and forced to endure their accusations and recriminations. It is a marvelous personification of the conscience. David has no conscience while he is the werewolf. However, he is burdened with an abundance of conscience when he is not. I love this addition. An American Werewolf in London won the very first Academy Award for Best Makeup in 1981. So, let's talk about the history of this prestigious award recognizing outstanding achievements in makeup and hairstyling in film. The category was created in 1981 after complaints that the makeup work in the movie The Elephant Man should have been honored. Before this, makeup artists were only eligible for special achievement awards. The makeup branch's executive committee selects nominees and creates a short list of titles. Clips from these films are then screened by the branch members at an annual bake-off. In 2002, rules were installed requiring that 7 finalists be chosen each year, with the top 3 becoming nominees. In 2020, that short list was expanded from 7 finalists to 10. The category was renamed to its current name, the Academy Award for Best Makeup and Hairstyling in 2012. As I said earlier, makeup artist Rick Baker holds the record for the most wins, 7, and nominations 11 in this category. Before makeup became an official category, 2 films were awarded honorary Oscars for their impressive makeup work: Seven Faces of Dr. Lao in 1964 and Planet of the Apes in 1968. The category did get off to a rocky start, with only 2 nominees in the first 2 years and no nominees at all in 1983. Despite this, the category has recognized many impressive feats of makeup design throughout the years. Traditionally, there have been 3 nominees for Best Makeup, although this field is now eligible to have up to 5 nominees. 2 werewolf movies have won this award throughout its history. This movie, American Werewolf in London, is the first. Rick Baker will win it again in 2010 for The Wolfman. just in case you were wondering how good Rick Baker really is. I cannot find any other werewolf movie that have even ever been nominated for this Oscar, but I could be missing something, so I'll keep an eye on it as we go forward. Overall, the Academy Award for Best Makeup and Hairstyling stands as a significant acknowledgement of the artistry and proficiency involved in crafting transformative appearances for film characters. Over time, this category has undergone development, transforming into a highly competitive category, showcasing the best achievements in makeup and hairstyling in the film industry. One thing that struck me on this viewing was how cavalier the movie was about endorsing the idea of suicide. I understand the premise. David is cursed. He will kill again and again and again until he dies. The most straightforward way for David to protect others is by taking his own life. However, considering the contemporary world's heightened awareness and sensitivity to the potential dangers of promoting self-harm among vulnerable individuals, I can't help but think that such a theme might be handled differently today. It remains to be seen if a potential remake of the film would address this aspect in a more nuanced manner. Which brings me to my 2 cents on this topic. Do I want to see an American Werewolf in London get remade? We talked about remakes last episode as well. I'm a little surprised to find that my answer is yes. Now, I don't need it to be remade. I won't be heartbroken if it's not remade. And I get the arguments for no. It will be hard to top this film just based on its importance in film history. That may even be an impossible task. Whoever remakes this movie faces inevitable comparisons to a genuine legend. But this film is over 40 years old. Effects technology has improved with time. So if a filmmaker really thinks they can set a new bar for werewolf makeup and transformations on screen, take a swing. I've been surprised by the number of people in my life who have not seen this movie, mostly because it came out so long ago. Maybe it is time for a new version that can reach a new generation. Finally, I love how this film brilliantly demonstrates why the infectious model of lycanthropic spread does not lead to mass werewolf outbreaks. Neither David nor the werewolf on the moors has any desire to merely injure their prey. We don't get a good look at Jack or of any of David's victims, but what glimpses we do get are a prime definition of the concept of overkill. Not many targets would ever have the chance, as David did, to recover from a werewolf attack. New werewolves are therefore rare. So, if you like lycanthropes, like, share, and subscribe. Contribute your thoughts and additional observations in the comments below. Let me know what I missed or what you noticed. Next, I plan on discussing The Beast and the Magic Sword from 1983. Keep your eye on the moon, a silver bullet in the chamber, and we'll see you back here next episode.